Hi everybody, welcome to Thrive Thursday. I'm Jill Bakke. I'm here with Judy Dano and Lori Kuhn. Judy wrote this week's article called The Gap Doesn't Have to Suck. So Judy, would you give us a little overview and just a little flavor of what's going on this week?
Sure. So for me, the gap is really about an experience. Oftentimes, I'll have something that I'm wanting or desiring, and I don't have it yet. Like I haven't actualized it yet. I haven't achieved it yet. I haven't gotten to that place where I want to be yet. And sometimes I'll feel frustration or angst or kind of some emotions that don't feel great for me, and impatience is really one of those for sure.
I don't know that anyone experiences that.
Right, but sometimes impatience, oftentimes I will identify that as frustration or angst, and so I have learned techniques in order to be able to navigate it a little bit differently, so that I don't have to feel that and wish I was somewhere else and adopt this sense of that, well, I'll be happy when I get someplace. And so because of that, I thought some of the tools that I've learned here at Thrive, that would be helpful for some people. So I thought I would write an article about how I've navigated it, how I do navigate it, the experience came up for me again recently, and I thought, all right, this is what I'm going to write about. It obviously must be relevant for other people if it's relevant for me.
So let's get right into it.
Yeah.
What are those tools? We talk a lot about all these ideas and philosophies and finding your way and la la la. Well, there are some things that we have legitimate, do this and experience it differently types of tools.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
do you want to go through what
Sure.
process you went through so that people can
Absolutely.
see if that is maybe something they want to try or what version of that might be relevant for them?
Awesome. And I don't mention this in the article, but obviously at first, and maybe it's not so obvious, but starts with the awareness that I'm feeling the gap or that I'm experiencing the gap. And then what I do is
Well, how can you tell you're in the gap, though?
well, like I said before, for me, I'm feeling some angst. I'm feeling kind of out of sorts. I'm not really feeling great about things. In this particular instance, I was looking at something, and I'm trying to identify in something that I know is going to happen, in a future years from now. Mm-hmm. And so I was kind of like, oh, how am I going to get there? How am I going to do this? What am I going to do? And then all of a sudden it came to my awareness that, wow, I am feeling that this is super far for me, or it's way out of reach for me, or it's going to be too expensive for me, or it's, there's so many different ways to experience the gap, or I'm not good enough to get this new job, or, whatever. That's not, mine isn't about a new job, but that could be somebody else's experience.
And I like that you brought up there's so many different ways to experience the
Yeah,
gap.
yeah.
So, and it's different with each situation.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I've identified as a trigger of that place when I know that I'm living in the gap is when I'm doing things like, oh, I just wish.
Yes.
Or
Yes.
if only. When I'm in that sort of wishing life was different phase of things and feeling it from a place of, if this thing was different, I would feel better right now.
Yeah.
That to me shows me I'm in the gap. I'm not
Definitely.
experiencing life in its fullest as it currently is right now while moving towards the thing that I want. I'm wishing that I could leap over that bridge and get to the new thing, and I'm dismissing the magic of what life is right now.
Right, exactly.
So I just wish.
Yeah. So for me, it usually starts with the desire. And so I went to, okay, what is my desire? I knew what my desire was. But here's the tricky part about desire for me. Desire is complex. And oftentimes what I think it is that I want isn't really truly the thing that I actually want. So I do a self-exploration of, okay, wait a second. Is that truly what I want? And then I will go into kind of the essence of it. Well, what will it give me? And then I'll identify these other things within that desire, and then that helps me decide whether or not that form is exactly what I want. And I mentioned in the article that it's really important for me that what I'm desiring is not only good for me, but it's good for my higher good, and it's good for for everybody that's involved in the decision or the want, the desire. And so I want to double check that. I want to make sure that it's in line with what we call here at Thrive our inner truth. Is my desire actually a desire for moving me forward in a way that is healthy for the good of everybody?
Yeah, it's also what we call at Thrive our win-win-win.
Yes.
You know, it's good
Exactly.
for me, it's good for the other person, and it's good for the environment or the business or whatever it is that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's my first check is, okay, am I on track with that? Am I in alignment? And then two easy inroads for me are behavior and thought. And so then I go to my next components. Now these components that I'm identifying are components of what we call our human internal operating system. We call it our HIOS. And so I'm tapping into what's happening within those components. So I check in with my behaviors and I check in with my thoughts. If my behavior is in line with my desire, am I doing the things that are going to get me to where I want to be? And are there thoughts that are maybe holding me back? And sometimes those thoughts are coming from a belief that I might hold, another component of the HIOS. And so I'm just doing kind of a quick assessment of, what am I thinking about this? Am I thinking about, oh my gosh, it's going to take me forever and I'm never going to get there? Or there's no possible way I'm going to make the amount of money that I need to make in order to attain this thing? Or, you know, again, I'm using various situations that people experience with gaps. You know, or am I good enough to, you know, get somewhere? Or, you know, I mean, there's so many different ways to experience that. So I check in with those, and then I basically call bullshit on some of them.
Yeah.
You know, like, this thought is holding me back, and I don't want to believe that. You know, I don't want to believe that belief anymore. And actually, you know, I'm identifying this belief, and it was a belief maybe that I carried from earlier on in my life, and I decide that it's not serving me anymore. So then I decide and I do the work to choose another belief that is in alignment, again, with my inner truth and all of my other components. And then I align all of it together so that I'm moving in the direction that I want to go.
So it really sounds like you're analyzing your beliefs through a neutral perspective.
Absolutely.
So, okay, I'm in this gap. Now
Yeah.
let me start looking at, what are my beliefs about, or what am I thinking, what am I processing while
Yes.
I'm in this gap? Are they
Yes.
true? So you're just kind of deconstructing it and taking a look at what this is for you.
Right. And really my driving force is that it doesn't feel great,
Right.
you know? And so I don't want to go through life feeling the gap, feeling this angst, and feeling the emotion, which is, and again, another component of our HIOS. I don't want to feel, and that was kind of my message of the gap for me. And so how do I want to experience it differently? And Jill, you're really good at this when we talk about more than enough. And so kind of the last part of the article is I decide to believe that it's all unfolding perfectly, and I decide to have a practice of gratitude for where I'm at and where I know that I will eventually be. And so that's how I play with it.
It's practicing what you want to experience, or how you want to
Absolutely.
experience life. And I think it's really interesting in the equation that you laid out. The trigger was an emotion.
Yeah,
I feel
yeah.
angsty.
Yep.
But in your process, you said, okay, this is the emotion. It's just this thing. And you
Exactly.
looked at the other 5 components. And then as you make shifts and upgrades to those other 5 components and understand what's happening in those, the emotion just hops on board.
It was
Like,
exactly
you don't deny the emotion. You don't pretend you don't feel it. You don't try to thwart that. You don't distract yourself with other things. You say,
No.
okay, oh, this emotion is giving me some information. What does it mean about my thoughts? What does it mean about my beliefs? What does it mean about my inner truth? What does it
Exactly.
mean about these things? And then as you ask those questions, the emotion's like, oh, thanks for hearing me. And it hops
Exactly.
over here and says,
Exactly.
cool, let's keep going and have fun today.
Exactly.
So it's a
Yeah.
great way to understand, and that's why we love HIOS so much, is it takes something that can be so overwhelming and consuming, that angsty feeling. You could have gone down that rabbit hole,
Absolutely.
ate your pint of ice cream,
Yeah.
sat on the couch with your blankie and Netflix
It's been done before.
for 10 hours. You could have, called and griped and gotten on that suffering train
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
everybody else, and you could have rode that thing down into the black hole.
Absolutely.
We've all
Oh
been in that
yeah,
black
now
hole.
that gap becomes a spiral of your existence, and it was just a
Now
gap
it's,
that you
now
dealt
it's
with
depression and
and
anxiety
right.
and big
Exactly.
stuff, right?
Yeah.
Rather than saying, I feel kind of angsty, I wonder what that is. And instead of wondering about the emotion, you're over here wondering what's happening in your other 5 components.
Absolutely.
Which is just a beautiful strategy that I think all of us have been playing with a lot this summer. What happens when you bust these components back apart and look at them as who they are, instead of letting mainly the emotion override the whole system.
Right.
So I think it's a really powerful technique.
It is. It is. I mean, it's super powerful for me, and I'm so curious. I have always had big dreams. I still have big dreams. I don't think I will ever not have big dreams. And so there's opportunity to experience the gap oftentimes, right? Because I play in that space. And so to be able to have these tools and to be able to bring it back, I kind of bring it back to center and know my power in it and then experience it differently. Man, I get to feel good in life regardless.
Yeah.
And it's not about these external things that I have to wait till I'm happy until I get.
Yeah.
Because the desire is natural. You're
Yeah.
always going to have the next desire. You have many of the big dreams that you've wished for historically are real in lifetime right now. And yet that desire for something new is always going to be there. So if we're constantly in that place of angst, wanting the next thing, then that inner peace and contentment and joy and experience of life as it is right now gets lost to the achievement of the next thing, which a lot of people experience.
Absolutely. It's normal. It's extremely normal.
Yeah, and one thing I like with you about playing in the gap is now you can actually enjoy it.
Yes.
Oh, cool, I'm in the gap, and I know that cool things usually come after I've been in the gap for a while.
Yeah.
So now it becomes more of a fun, like, I can create this, I can mold it, you know, it's a malleable place instead of this place that really sucks.
Yeah. And then something will show up in the gap, and I'll be like, oh, look what that showed up, you know, and that's perfectly in alignment with, you know, exactly where I want to be. And, oh, look at this opportunity over here. Now I'm experiencing it from a playfulness instead of from, I wonder how this is going to all unfold. And I know that I'm going to get there, but how is it all going to unfold? And I'm not so tense and tied up to it has to look this way or this linear path. And I open up myself to so many more possibilities to show up for me in different ways that I can and get to where I want to be.
It's a really cool hook into the powerful use of imagination.
Yes.
So some of the things that I heard you say is when you're in the gap, you're checking your stories. Oh, it's going to take so long. It's going to be so much work. It's still so far away. Well, that's all made up stories. So it gives you the opportunity to say, ooh, what would this look like if it showed up tomorrow? How could this be closer than I think it is? You know, where is my imagination thinking small and putting me in a place that I don't want to be, as opposed to getting in my big dreams when you feel that, hey, that's an opportunity to dream bigger.
Yeah. And what's cool about it is when I was experiencing the gap that I was experiencing, and like I said, it was years out, it's because I want it to be years out. And yet I was experiencing
it. It's not here yet.
I'm like, wait a second, I don't even want it to be here yet. And yet I was experiencing some angst.
You're impatient around it.
Yeah, which was really funny. So again, desires are complex, you know, and so we really have to kind of, when I drew back from it and I went, and I really started to identify all of it, I just went back to, that's so cool that I was trying to pull something into my experience of life that I'm not even ready for yet.
Right.
So that was fun.
That's awesome. Any closing thoughts? Last, final?
For me, I just, like I said, I think it's really a difficult place for a lot of people. And I don't know if everybody really identifies it as a gap. So I think that the way we articulate that could be helpful for people. So I would love for you guys to start exploring it. I just want people to walk away and understand the components of your HIOS. And like you shared, pulling those out, I think is so important, and really looking at every aspect of yourself instead of trying to fix this one thing, I think is super important. So, but play with it. That was my way. I'd like you to figure out your way in it. And of course, if you have any questions, we're here. So I think that's...
How about you, Lori? Final nugget?
Well, for me, there's so many different shifts in perspective you can take around the gap.
Yeah.
I mean, because oftentimes people are in the gap because they're looking at what they don't have, or like you said, how far out it is.
Right.
And that makes me feel crappy. So do I want to keep feeling crappy, or do I want to look at what I've already accomplished and, you know, how far I've already come?
Yeah.
So for me, it's just kind of playing with that shift in perspective about how I want to view the space I'm in right now.
I love that.
And I think for me, the one key takeaway is enjoying the life that you're on right now. It's so easy to kind of wish away. I think of it in terms of parenting. How many parents wish away that first year because infants are so intense and there's so much work and you're not sleeping and you're like, I can't wait until they can blah, blah, blah. Well, then they can blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh, I miss snuggling them and I wish I'd taken those moments and I wish I'd been more present in that. And so the opportunity to be present is a thing you can do right now this second. Like, you
Yeah.
don't have to change anything else about any of your experiences to look around and be present right here in this moment and find some things to appreciate it and recognize the dreams that are already come true in this moment that you're living in, and that practice of appreciation. Because what we know is, if I'll be happy when is the practice that you are practicing, no matter how much you achieve, you'll continue to be practicing I'll be happy when, and it'll be a moving target for you. So I'm happy right now, I'm good right now, I'm content right now, I'm learning right now, being much more present in what's happening right now, and recognizing that progression, I think, is something that's been super helpful.
Well, and then
for
you
me.
take that step, and then you're happy in that step,
Yeah.
and then you're happy in the next step, and
Yeah.
the next step, and the next
And maybe
step.
happy isn't the word. If Jen was here, she'd be rolling her eyes at my choice of the word happy. But whatever that is for you,
Content or
I'm
joy
whole
or-
right now.
yeah.
I'm experiencing life right now. I'm participating right now. There's all
Exactly.
kinds of different stances and perspectives you can
I
take
like
on
that.
So if you can't get all the way to happy, great. I'm
Yeah.
participating in life right now. I'm experiencing life right now. I'm present in life right now.
Yeah.
And I'm moving forward and getting into that end.
Or I'm laying in my comfortable bed right now eating a gallon of ice cream.
Yeah.
Or that.
I mean, that's, what more could you ask for? I mean, that sounds like a beautiful way to
Oh, a
spend the
hot
day.
guy rubbing my feet.
Well, there you
maybe,
go.
but-
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. You can find more on thrivehdc.com, including our upcoming classes, specifically HPT and our HIT Human Influencer Training, which are coming up in the fall. We'd love to talk with you more about that. We'd love to hear your feedback, comments. So if you have experienced the gap and have a story or a conversation that you would like to have with us, we welcome that as well. Judy, thanks for a fun article
Yes,
and
absolutely.
a great conversation. Thank you, ladies, and we will see you all next week.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.